November 2018. The Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal. A dawn mist, thick and humid as steam, barely touches the crowns of the giant mangroves. A brackish sea spray hangs in the motionless air, saturating everything with its metallic taste. In this deafening, primordial silence, broken only by the rare cries of unknown birds and the steady dip of oars, a lone, frail kayak moves across the perfectly smooth water. Inside sits 26-year-old American John Allen Chow. His muscles are strained to their limit, his palms rubbed raw, and his heart pounds a frantic, deafening rhythm somewhere in his throat. He knows he is undertaking the most dangerous, most reckless, and most forbidden journey on the planet. Ahead of him, through the morning fog, the dark coastline of North Sentinel Island slowly materializes. It is a place that exists on no tourist map, a place the government of India has officially declared a total exclusion zone, forbidding any vessel from approaching within 5 nautical miles under threat of immediate arrest and lengthy imprisonment. But this does not stop John. He is no adventurer. He is a missionary. And he is consumed by an idea that his sole purpose on earth is to bring the word of God to the last uncontacted and completely isolated tribe on the planet. He paddles closer, his teeth clenched against a storm of fear and excitement. On the blinding white sand, 2 short, dark figures appear. They shout in a guttural, clicking language understood by no linguist in the world. John shouts something encouraging in return, attempting to offer a freshly caught fish as a gift. Suddenly, one of the islanders, a teenager it seems, draws the string of his longbow with a child's ease. A thin arrow slices through the air with an ominous whistle and embeds itself squarely in the thick Bible John is. He turns the kayak in a panic, paddling away with his last reserves of strength, back toward the fisherman waiting at a safe distance. It was a warning, the last unambiguous warning. The next day, ignoring the pleas of the fisherman and his own terror, he would return. From that cursed shore he was not destined to leave. The fisherman who had illegally ferried him to the island would later tell Indian police in horror that they saw from afar as the islanders dragged John's lifeless body across the beach, burying him in a shallow grave in the sand. The world shuddered, but not so much from the primeval violence of the tribe. It shuddered from the colossal, almost suicidal folly of a man who crossed a line that was never meant to be crossed. A man whose faith drove him to an island that time had forgotten, and that wanted only to remain so. There is a place that defies a fundamental edict of our time, a place guarded by international law and military patrols more fiercely than any nuclear facility or strategic command center. What secret lies buried in its impenetrable jungles? What compels one of the most populous and rapidly advancing nations on Earth to draw an impassable barrier around it, protecting its terrible truth at the cost of human lives? To truly understand why this small island provokes such a primal fear, why the global community has silently agreed to leave it in absolute isolation, we must first journey to other frontiers of exclusion, places shrouded in state secrecy, shielded by lethal danger, or concealing scientific revelations that could forever alter our understanding of the world. Only then can we return to the heart of our story and its blood-chilling secrets. Imagine a location on Earth where entry is forbidden, not because it holds military secrets, contains radioactive waste, or is home to a hostile population, but because it is too pure, too new, utterly sterile. This is the island of Surtsey. The southernmost point of Iceland and the youngest island on our planet, before November 14,
You think you vs everything. Wait. What comes next will turn everything upside down.
1963, this island did not exist. In its place was nothing but the surface of the Atlantic Ocean, 425 feet deep. But on that morning, a cook aboard a nearby fishing trawler saw a column of black smoke rising from the horizon. The captain, assuming a vessel was ablaze, steered his ship toward the plume to offer aid. As they drew closer, the crew witnessed not a disaster, but a biblical spectacle: the eruption of a submarine volcano. With a hiss and a roar, superheated lava, ash, and pumice tore through the ocean depths, creating new land before their very eyes. The eruption raged for nearly 4 years. By June 5, 1967, when the last vent fell silent, a stable island had been born in the middle of the sea, covering over 1 square mile and rising 508 feet above the waves. Scientists across the globe immediately understood the unique, once-in-a-millennium opportunity they had been given to observe in real time and from absolute zero the colonization and genesis of life on a pristine, sterile parcel of Earth. Surtsey was immediately declared a nature reserve of global significance, a UNESCO World Heritage Site with the most stringent rules of access in human history. Only a few dozen accredited biologists may ever set foot on the island, and only after the most rigorous sanitary protocols. Before disembarking, their clothing, their equipment, their very bodies are meticulously cleansed. On this nascent world, a single misplaced seed, a stray microbe from the sole of a boot, could irrevocably corrupt the most important biological experiment of our age. Here, humanity does not conquer or claim, it merely watches, holding its breath, lest our very presence contaminate the miracle of a world beginning anew. Every piece of equipment is scoured, purged of any foreign seed, spore, or microbe. Any object brought ashore must be utterly sterile. This is a world in its infancy, a place where the clock of life is being set to zero. But even such unprecedented measures can fail. One day, against the absolute black of the island's volcanic sand, a single defiant sprout of green appeared, a tomato plant. The discovery sent a shockwave of panic through the scientific community. An emergency summit was convened. How did it get here? Was it carried by a bird? A meticulous investigation revealed a far more terrestrial source. A scientist, in a profound breach of protocol, had relieved himself on the island. An undigested seed from his lunch, a ghost from another world, had found purchase in the virgin soil. The plant was immediately excised with surgical precision, annihilated as a dangerous biological contaminant. Illicit drone footage captured by tourists from a passing boat reveals the stark reality of this place. Lifeless black lava fields stretch to the horizon, a terrestrial echo of a Martian landscape. Here, life is returning, millimeter by millimeter, a living laboratory of evolution. The first settlers were bacteria and mold. Then the wind delivered the seeds of varsertilizing the barren earth, their feet and feathers carrying colonists from distant shores. Seals occasionally haul themselves onto the black beaches to rest. But humanity has no place here. We are walking biological weapons, capable with a single careless step.
This is where things get really interesting. What you're about to hear might explain why this was never meant to be discovered.
A single seed stuck to the sole of a boot, of corrupting the unique experiment nature itself has staged for us. The price of witnessing this creation is a total and eternal ban, enforced for all but a handful of chosen guardians. This paradox, that to preserve something we must abandon it, echoes not only in the nurseries of new life, but in the most sacred chambers of our own deep past. What threat could possibly lie in ancient rock paintings? It would seem nothing at all. Yet it is because of them that one of the most important archaeological finds in human history, the Lascaux Cave in southwestern France, has become a hermetically sealed time capsule. Its entrance is closed to ordinary people forever, perhaps for centuries. On September 12, 1940, 4 teenagers exploring the woods discovered a narrow fissure torn open by a fallen pine tree. Driven by youthful curiosity, they widened the hole and descended into the darkness. What they saw inside, by the trembling light of a homemade lantern, stunned not only them, but the entire civilized world. The walls and ceilings were a vast living canvas covered with hundreds of perfectly preserved, vibrant and dynamic paintings from the Paleolithic era. Images of giant bulls, swift horses and graceful deer rendered 17,000 years ago with an incredible mastery of skill and a profound sense of perspective. It was immediately named the Sistine Chapel of Prehistoric Art. We are the guardians of these fragile worlds, both new and ancient. Yet our very presence, our breath, the microbes we carry, is a force of erosion. To protect a miracle, whether it is the first sprout on a new continent or the last echo of our distant ancestors, we are forced to become strangers to it. The greatest treasures, it seems, can only be kept safe by being kept away from the very beings who cherish them most. In 1948, following the Second World War, its doors were opened to the public. It was the beginning of the end. A torrent of humanity, up to 1,200 visitors a day, descended into the earth. They brought with them the warmth of their bodies, the moisture of their sweat, the glare of artificial lights, and something far more insidious, the carbon dioxide from their very breath. The fragile, perfectly calibrated microclimate which had preserved these priceless images for 17,000 years was irreversibly shattered. Carbon dioxide reacting with the ambient moisture formed a weak carbonic acid. It began to dissolve the thin protective veil of calcite that shielded the art. First, colonies of green algae bloomed across the ancient stone. Then came crystalline growths and calcite deposits. And finally, the most feared invader, a black mold, a voracious fungus that literally consumed the prehistoric pigments, leaving behind nothing but ugly, spreading stains. In 1963, a mere 15 years after it was opened, French authorities made a desperate, agonizing decision. The cave was sealed forever. Today, the original Lascaux Cave is a sanctuary, accessible only to a select few. A small team of scientific restorers who may enter for no more than a few minutes each month, clad in steriled in the space, but on the walls themselves, a realm too delicate for any machine. But rare video recordings, filmed during painstaking inspections, offer a glimpse into this forbidden world. They reveal vasts so vivid they seem painted only yesterday. To satisfy the public's insatiable hunger, a millimeter-perfect replica was built nearby, Lascaux II. It was followed by a more modern, more complete copy, Lascaux IV. But they are all just exquisite imitations. The true treasure sleeps on in absolute darkness, locked behind massive armored doors, saved from our own ruinous curiosity. We had been granted access to a time machine, one that could transport us across 170 centuries. And with our own breath, we nearly erased it from existence. There are places...
Stay with me. Because what comes next has been hidden for a very long time. And only a few people.
Is forbidden for the sake of science. Places sealed to preserve history. And then there are places the locals say are cursed by the earth and time itself. The island of Poveglia in the Venetian lagoon is one such place. This small patch of land, overgrown with riotous vegetation, is perfectly visible from the bell tower of St. Mark's and the shores of the Lido. Yet it holds a history so dark, so stained with blood, the Italian government has officially forbidden all visitors. Local fishermen refuse to cast their nets in its murky waters, terrified of what they might haul to the surface, of pulling up human bones. The story begins in the age of the Roman Empire, when the island was a place of isolation and exile, a final destination for the victims of plague. The true, unceasing horror began in the 14th century. It arrived on the tide of the most devastating pandemic in European history, the Black Death. Here, in the Venetian lagoon, an island was transformed into a colossal, isolated lazzaretto, in essence, an open-air mass grave. Barges, heavy with the dead and dying, arrived from every corner of the lagoon. Thousands of souls were brought to this final shore, cast into enormous pits and consumed by giant pyres lit to halt the contagion's relentless march. It is said that the very soil of this place is composed of 50% human ash and bone. Chronicles and local legends hold that more than 160,000 people met their agonizing end upon this cursed ground. But this chapter of suffering was not the last. In 1922, a new institution rose from the ruins, a hospital for the mentally ill. Almost immediately upon arrival, patients began to complain of nocturnal visions, the spectral forms of plague victims, their disembodied moans and harrowing screams echoing through the wards. Yet, in a place of supposed madness, who would believe the mad? The hospital's chief physician dismissed their terror as mere delusion, symptoms to be treated, or perhaps exploited. He subjected his helpless patients to cruel and inhumane experiments, including lobotomies, which, according to rumor, he performed without anesthesia, using only a hammer, a chisel, and a drill. As the legend is told, the doctor himself was eventually driven insane by the same phantoms that haunted his patients. Plagued by constant visions and voices, he threw himself from the hospital's bell tower. Following this incident, the hospital was permanently closed in 1968, and the island was abandoned to its ghosts. Today, daredevils who slip past the authorities and YouTubers piloting drones from a safe distance speak of an impossibly oppressive and heavy atmosphere. The aerial footage reveals a skeletal landscape, the derelict hospital, its walls choked by wild vegetation, the sinister, solitary bell tower standing guard over the decay, and strange depressions in the earth, the sunken scars of mass burials. The few who have set foot on this soil and returned speak with one voice. They describe an inexplicable, bone-chilling dread, sudden, overwhelming attacks of panicky corridors, and the constant, unshakable feeling of being watched by unseen eyes from the darkened windows of the abandoned buildings. This is Poveglia, not merely a forbidden zone, but a monument to human suffering in its most concentrated form. A place so saturated with pain, fear, and death that time itself seems afraid to touch it. Yet not all of history's darkest chapters are written in ash and bone. Some are locked away, bound in vellum, and guarded by impenetrable walls. In the heart of Rome, behind the towering ramparts of the world's smallest sovereign state, lies a place whose mystery and inaccessibility have ignited the minds of historians.
This is where things get really interesting. What you're about to hear might explain why this was never meant to be discovered.
Historians, theorists, and storytellers for centuries, the Vatican's secret archives. The testament not only to what we know of our past, but to the vast, silent ocean of what we have been forbidden to see. It is a place torn from the pages of a thriller, a vault of secrets imagined by novelists and whispered about by theorists. But this is no fiction. It is a real, physical repository, a fortress of knowledge containing the priceless documents accumulated by the Catholic Church over more than 12 centuries of its existence. And it is almost entirely sealed off from the outside world. The name itself is a veil. In the original Latin, Archivum Secretum Apostolicum Vaticanum, the word secretum does not mean secret in the modern sense, but private. The Vatican Apostolic Private Archive, belonging personally to the Pope. Yet this distinction does little to change the reality. Access is strictly, zealously guarded. Only a few dozen accredited scholars may pass its gates each year, and only after a long, arduous, and at times humiliating vetting of their reputation and their purpose. They are categorically forbidden from entering the repository itself, a multi-level subterranean bunker. Instead, they must request a specific document from a sparse catalogue and wait patiently for an archivist to deliver it to a specialized reading room. Photography is forbidden. Only a pen or a pencil may touch the silence to take notes from the pages of history. But what history truly lies on those endless shelves? Shelves that, by official accounts, stretch for 85 kilometers. Officially, they hold papal bulls, correspondence with kings and emperors, financial ledgers, and the trial records of the Inquisition. But speculation haunts these official explanations. It insists that in the deepest, most heavily guarded sections, something far more dangerous to the existing world order is kept. The original lost Gospels, of Judas or of Mary Magdalene, painting a picture of Christ that contradicts centuries of doctrine. Documentary proof of a bloodline descending from Jesus and Mary Magdalene. The secret correspondence between Pope Pius XII and Adolf Hitler, which could finally reveal the Vatican's true stance on the Holocaust. Detailed reports from exorcisms chronicling real contact with demonic entities. And, in the most fantastic of theories, artifacts and evidence of contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, hidden from humanity by the Church. The high walls of the Vatican and the pikes of the Swiss Guard stand as a silent testament to the secrets they protect. The few scholars who have touched these ancient parchments speak of a reverent terror, a humbling awareness that in their hands lie the...
Wait, this is not the full story. The most important part is just beginning, and it changes everything we thought we knew.
Keys to the greatest and most volatile mysteries of Western civilization. This is more than a forbidden zone. It is an informational black hole at the very heart of the modern world. It is a monument not only to what we know of our past, but to the unsettling possibility that the most profound truths of our history are the ones we have never been permitted to see. In Japan, a nation of startling contrasts, the pulse of the future beats against the bedrock of the past. Here, robotics and skyscrapers exist in a delicate harmony with traditions that have remained unchanged for millennia. Nowhere is this paradox more profound, more inexplicable, than at the great shrine of Ise. Known as Ise Jingu, it is the most revered, most sacred Shinto complex in the nation. It is dedicated to the supreme sun goddess Amaterasu o Mikami, the mythical ancestor of the entire Japanese imperial line. It is also one of the most inaccessible places on the planet for ordinary mortals. The complex is a constellation of more than 125 individual shrines, scattered across a vast ancient forest. But its heart, the inner shrine known as Naiku, is hidden from the eyes of the world. It is cloistered behind 4 tall wooden fences. The millions of visitors and pilgrims who arrive each year see only a fleeting glimpse of its thatched roof through the dense foliage of ageless trees. Passage beyond the first fence is granted only to members of the imperial family and a handful of the highest-ranking priests. Any attempt to photograph or film near the central sanctuary is met with swift and silent intervention. Guards will compel you, without discussion, to erase every image captured. But the most astonishing feature of this place, a tradition almost incomprehensible to the outside world, is the ritual of Shikinen Sengu. Every 20 years, a cycle that has continued almost unbroken since the year 690, the main shrine and 13 other key structures are completely dismantled. They are destroyed down to their foundations and then perfectly rebuilt on an adjacent, specially prepared site. The reconstruction uses the exact same ancient technologies and materials as it did nearly 1,500 years ago. Through this act, the priceless art of nail-free carpentry is passed not through texts, but as a living skill, from master to apprentice, from one generation to the next. Then, after another 20 years have passed, the process repeats in reverse. The shrine returns to its original hallowed ground. This unending ritual is a physical manifestation of Shinto ideals, of death and rebirth, of the eternal renewal of nature and the impermanence of all things. What then is held within the heart of this eternally new temple? Legend insists it is the keeper of one of the 3 sacred treasures of Japan, the objects that confirm the divine origin of imperial authority. It is the bronze mirror, the Yata no Kagami, which mythology says the goddess Amaterasu herself gave to her grandson, the first emperor of Japan. No one besides the reigning emperor and the high priestess of the shrine has ever seen it. Its existence is not a matter of proof, but of faith. The shrine itself teaches the ultimate lesson, that true divinity needs no permanent monument, for its power is not in being seen, but in the promise of its constant, unwavering return. Within the serene expanse of Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains, a mere 77 kilometers from the frantic pulse of Washington, D.C., lies a place that, on most maps, officially does not exist. Yet it holds the key to the survival of the United States government in the face of a global apocalypse. This is Mount Weather. To those initiated into its secrets, it is known as the alternate Pentagon.
Não comes de parte no one talks about.
On the surface, it presents as an unremarkable, if well-guarded, government complex, a facility for the Federal Emergency Management Agency. But its true nature, its immense power, and its terrifying purpose are hidden deep beneath the earth, entombed in the unyielding mass of a granite mountain. Mount Weather is a colossal, self-contained subterranean city. Forged in the crucible of the Cold War during the 1950s, it was engineered to withstand a direct strike from a Soviet nuclear warhead. Its sole purpose, the immediate evacuation of the highest echelons of American leadership. The President, the Vice President, cabinet members, Supreme Court justices, and key figures of Congress would be spirited away to this underground sanctum in the event of nuclear war, a catastrophic asteroid impact, or any other cataclysm that threatened the nation's existence. For decades, information about this facility was among the most tightly guarded secrets. But the veil was unexpectedly torn away by tragedy. In 1974, a commercial airliner, a Boeing 727, went down in poor weather near the mountain. The official reports on the crash, for the first time, made mention of the top-secret government installation, igniting a national scandal. Through fragments and leaks, a chilling picture has emerged. The underground city is believed to house several thousand individuals, sustaining them in complete autonomy for months on end. It possesses its own streets, navigated by electric vehicles, residential complexes, hospitals, and vast dining halls. Power is supplied by massive diesel generators, while impenetrable systems purify air and water from the taint of radiation and chemical agents. Rumor even speaks of a small subterranean lake. Crucially, the complex contains a fully operational television and radio broadcast center. From the safety of his granite tomb, a president could address the scattered, perhaps dying, survivors on the surface. This is not a relic of a bygone era. During the terror attacks of September 11, 2001, the facility was brought to full operational readiness, its hardened doors sealed, ready to receive the nation's leadership as the world above reeled in shock and uncertainty. Mount Weather stands as a monument not to victory, but to survival. It is a city built on the premise of total failure, a last redoubt against the unthinkable. It exists as a silent testament to the fears that haunt the modern world, and the extraordinary lengths to which humanity will go to ensure that even in the face of annihilation, the story does not end. In a moment of national crisis, it is to this place that the highest echelons of power retreat. By helicopter, under a veil of extreme secrecy, Vice President Dick Cheney and other senior officials were spirited away to safety. Any drone that dares approach its heavily guarded perimeter is instantly silenced, its systems scrambled by powerful electronic warfare countermeasures. Satellite imagery reveals little, a few administrative buildings scattered on the surface. But the true nature of the facility is betrayed by what leads down. A network of camouflaged ventilation shafts, antennas, and helipads, all descending deep into the earth. This is Mount Weather, not merely a bunker, but the veritable shadow capital of the United States. A ghost city, patiently waiting in the dark for its moment to emerge, should the world we know dissolve into radioactive ruin. While one shadow government waits beneath American soil, another center of hidden power operates in plain sight under an alien sun. In the geographic heart of the Australian continent, surrounded by a dead, sun-scorched wilderness far from any civilization, lies a facility the locals call Uncle Sam's Ear. This is Pine Gap, a joint US-Australian military installation and one of the most vital, powerful, and secret intelligence bases on the planet. Its official title is deliberately innocuous, almost mundane, the Joint Defense Facility. But its true purpose is far more ominous. Pine Gap is a colossal station for the interception of signals from geostationary satellites. Its immense...
Wait, this is not the full story. The most important part is just beginning, and it changes everything we thought we knew.
White radio antennas are hidden beneath futuristic spherical radomes, shielding them from desert dust and prying eyes. From here, a web of American spy satellites is controlled, veritable giant ears in space, listening to telephone conversations, intercepting emails, radio signals, and telemetry data across all of Asia, the Middle East, and vast territories within Russia and China. It is a global information vacuum, siphoning billions of terabytes of data each day. But this is not merely passive listening. According to former employees and world-renowned whistleblowers, Pine Gap plays a decisive, lethal role in America's drone program. It is from this silent nerve center that operators receive the precise geospatial data needed to guide Predator and Reaper drones to their targets in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Yemen, Somalia, and other global hotspots. Each time news breaks of another surgical strike, there is an overwhelming probability that the coordinates were acquired and processed right here in the blistering heat of the Australian desert, thousands of miles from the event itself. The base is fiercely protected by the Australian Federal Police and United States Marines. The airspace above is a no-fly zone, restricted up to an altitude of 5 kilometers. Any drone that breaches this forbidden territory is not warned, it is immediately destroyed. In the modern age, the architects of war may never hear the sound of an explosion. They operate not from a battlefield, but from a quiet room in the middle of a desert, their commands traveling silently across the globe as digital specters. The front line is everywhere, yet the trigger can be pulled from a place that sees no blood, only data. High-resolution satellite imagery offers the only reliable glimpse behind the wire. It reveals a sprawling, self-sufficient complex, a forest of antennas, administrative buildings, a power station, and a residential town for 1,000 American and Australian personnel. This is Pine Gap, Australia, and it is more than a restricted zone. It is the unseen nerve center of modern automated warfare, a place where analysts at screens make decisions that hold the power of life and death for people on the other side of the planet. But no list of the world's forbidden places is complete without its most infamous name. A legend, a myth, an icon etched into global culture. The mother of all conspiracy theories, Area 51. This unremarkable patch of Nevada desert has become the world's synonym for the mysterious, the inexplicable, the extraterrestrial. For decades, the United States government categorically denied its existence, airbrushing it from every official map. It was not until 2013, under immense public pressure, that the CIA finally admitted the base was real. But its purpose, they claimed, was not the dissection of alien visitors. It was a crucible for developing and testing top-secret aircraft. And in this, there is a great deal of truth. Here, far from prying eyes, under the strictest secrecy, the legendary Lockheed U-2 spy plane took flight. Here, the F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter and the B-2 Spirit strategic bomber were born. Many of the unidentified flying objects reported by locals and pilots in the 1950s and 60s were, in fact, test flights of these machines, craft so futuristic they appeared to defy the laws of physics. But does this official story account for everything? Is the alien mythology merely an elaborate fiction designed to distract? Not according to some. The most compelling proponent of a different truth is physicist Bob Lazar. In 1989, he gave a sensational television interview that fractured the public narrative. He claimed to have worked for months at a clandestine facility known as Sector 4, adjacent to Area 51. His task? To reverse engineer the propulsion systems of extraterrestrial craft recovered by the US government from crash sites. In meticulous technical detail, Lazar described 9 distinct flying discs, their internal mechanics, and their principles of operation. A technology based on anti-gravity, powered by a mysterious, stable element 115. The government's response was immediate and absolute. Lazar was branded a liar and a fraud. All records of his university education and his work at national laboratories vanished. Yet Lazar has passed multiple polygraph examinations, and for decades since, his story has not wavered. The official record speaks of advanced human engineering. The whistleblower speaks of technology from beyond our world. In the heart of the desert, behind fences and beneath the unblinking eye of surveillance, the truth remains locked away, leaving us to wonder what secrets the sand still keeps, and whether the most profound truths are the ones we are told or the ones we are forbidden to know. The PON and pressure sensors buried in the desert soil. It is watched over by armed patrols in stark white jeeps, their tires the only sound in the vast silence. Above, the column of air is the most fiercely guarded airspace on the planet. And yet, from the distant mountain ridges, they are always watching. Enthusiasts and journalists, armed with powerful telephoto lenses, capture fleeting glimpses, shimmering images of a world apart. Commercial satellites peel back another layer, revealing a landscape in constant flux. New, gigantic hangars rise from the earth. Runways stretch ever longer, reaching for an unseen horizon. Perhaps there are no frozen extraterrestrials lying in state within those hangars. But what is being designed and tested in that unforgiving light? What is taking flight in that forbidden air are technologies that outpace our own time by whole decades. Of this, there is no doubt. If Area 51 is America's most celebrated secret, its Russian counterpart is a place so deeply wrapped in shadow, it is a mystery even within its own borders. This is Mezhgoria, a city hidden in the Republic of Bashkortostan at the very heart of the impassable Ural Mountains. It is a closed administrative territorial formation, one of the last and most somber relics of the Cold War. For an ordinary person, entry is impossible. The city is sealed off by multiple perimeters of barbed wire, patrolled by internal troops. But the true secret is not the city itself, where the service personnel and their families live out their isolated lives. It is what lies beneath it and beside it. Looming over Mezhgoria is Mount Yaman.
Welcome to my channel. If you are fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries, you are in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss what's coming next. Because what you are about to see will change everything.
Tau. In the native Bashkir language, its name means evil mountain. Beginning in the mid-1990s, in the chaotic aftermath of the Soviet collapse, American spy satellites began to detect construction here on a scale without precedent. According to American intelligence, deep inside Mount Yamantau and the neighboring Kozvinsky Kamen, Russia is building a gargantuan, multi-leveled underground complex. Its suspected dimensions defy imagination. It is believed to be an entirely autonomous city, capable of sheltering up to 60,000 people, complete with its own infrastructure, life support systems, air filtration, and even a subterranean railway leading from the city deep into the mountain's core. The official story from Russian authorities has shifted constantly, only deepening suspicion. At first, it was a mining and processing plant, then a repository for state treasures and emergency food supplies. But American military experts and CIA analysts are in near unanimous agreement. This is a super-protected command post for the strategic nuclear forces of Russia, a so-called doomsday ark. Should a full-scale nuclear war begin, it is from here, from beneath a kilometer of solid Ural granite, that the nation's highest military and political leadership would command the final retaliatory strike. In the deep rock, the old fears of a world on fire have not been forgotten. They have simply been given a new and permanent home. Carved into the stone heart of the Ural Mountains lies a structure engineered to be among the most durable on the planet. It is designed to endure the direct impact of several megaton-class nuclear warheads. The only reliable way to peer into this place known as Mezhgorje, is through commercial satellite imagery. The images reveal a city, access roads, and railways leading directly to the mountain's base, and vast concrete portals disappearing into its dark, unseen depths. It is the most fortified location in Russia, a true information black hole, guarding the ultimate and most terrifying secret of nuclear deterrence. From the laboratories of evolution to the tombs of ancient artists, from cursed islands to doomsday bunkers, we return to where we began, to the origins of a lost world in the ocean, a place that is at once the greatest anthropological enigma, the greatest humanitarian dilemma, and the most dangerous and unpredictable forbidden zone on the planet, North Sentinel Island. After the tragic and predictable death of John Allen Chow, the world asked a single, insistent question. Why not simply dispatch a special forces team, subdue the aggressive inhabitants with tranquilizers, and finally study this tribe before it disappears forever? The answer is simple, logical, and horrifying, because it would, without question, kill them. The Sentinelese are, with an overwhelming degree of probability, the last people on Earth living in complete, absolute isolation from the rest of the world. An isolation that has lasted, according to varied scientific estimates, for 30,000 to 60,000 years. They are the direct, unmixed descendants of the first humans who journeyed out of Africa and settled along the coasts of Asia. For this unimaginable span of time, they developed entirely on their own. And this means their immune systems have never encountered a single one of our diseases. The common influenza virus, measles, chickenpox, or even a banal head cold, for us a mild, temporary ailment, would for them become a fatal, merciless plague, capable of annihilating their entire unique population in a matter of weeks. The history of colonization in the Americas and Australia demonstrated with brutal clarity how European diseases could eradicate up to 90% of a native population. It is precisely for this reason, in a profound acknowledgement of responsibility, that the Indian government enacted the strictest of laws, forbidding any and all contact. This is not the guarding of a state secret, it is an act of belated humanism, a final attempt to preserve a living shard of the Stone Age in our globalized, hyper-connected world. What few glimpses have we managed to steal of this lost world? In 1974, a National Geographic film crew made an ambitious attempt to establish contact.
Wait, this is not the full story. The most important part is just beginning, and it changes everything we thought we knew.
They left generous gifts on the shore: coconuts, red buckets, a doll, aluminum cookware, and a live pig. Their offerings were rejected, their presents a trespass. We are left watching from a distance, haunted by a terrible paradox: that to save this fragment of our own deep past, we must never touch it. That in an age defined by connection, the ultimate act of compassion may be to leave one last human mystery, completely and forever alone. They emerged from the jungle, stepping into the light. Gifts of coconuts and buckets were taken, but a live pig and a doll were met with spears, then buried in the sand. When the boat of a film crew drifted too close, their powerful bows sang out, an arrow burying itself deep in the director's thigh. In the early 1990s, after dozens of attempts, Indian anthropologist Triloknath Pandit finally achieved a fragile truce. The islanders would emerge from the trees, wading into the shallows to accept coconuts directly from his hands. But a line was always drawn. He was never, under any circumstances, allowed to set foot on their shore. Soon after, weighing the immense risks, the Indian government ceased even these peaceful expeditions. The final decision was made: total isolation. Then came 2004. After the ravages of the Indian Ocean tsunami, a military helicopter was dispatched to see if the tribe had survived. In response, a lone warrior stepped out from the tree line. He drew his bow and aimed not in fear, but in fury at the steel bird in his sky. It was a proud, unmistakable answer to the outside world. We are alive. Leave us in peace. In 2006, the boat of two fishermen poaching illegally in the island's waters broke from its anchor in the night. The current carried it to the forbidden coast. Their fate was sealed. Days later, a Coast Guard helicopter spotted their bodies, impaled on bamboo stakes and positioned in the sand to face the sea. This was not just a killing, it was a terrifying message. The shocking, inconvenient truth of North Sentinel Island is not that a savage people lives there. It is that to them, we are the savages. We are the carriers of invisible death, an aggressive civilization that could erase their fragile world with a single friendly touch. Their arrows are not unprovoked aggression. They are the desperate and entirely justified defense of their home, their people, and their ancient world from us. Perhaps the greatest mystery of this island is not who they are, but what their existence reveals about who we have become. That the only way to save them is to forget they were ever there at all.
Most people stop watching right here, but if you continue, you will discover something almost no one knows.